Yeah, I'm going to talk about my experiences and the performance results I've obtained through using CAPsMANv version 2. Okay, a little bit about me. Yeah, consult, configure and manage many small to medium-sized projects. In the game for 20 years. Got myself a master's degree. I run a little nano wires ISP up north, just north of Manchester, a little town called Burnley. I've been using MikroTik kit for about 3 years. What am I looking for? Yeah, I love using MikroTik kit. So if there's any opportunities out there, give us a shout afterwards when we're having a beer. Okay, I'm not really going to go through what CAPsMANv is because you can read about that on the wiki pages. But basically, for those who aren't aware what it is a centralization of the wireless network management, as well as you can, if you wish, process all the data centrally, so you get access to all of the MikroTik features. Okay, why do I use MikroTik? Well, it's one of those where you don't have to pay expensive licenses if you want to upgrade or add an access point. It's not like alternatives. Price to feature performance ratio, very, very good. As far as I'm aware, there is nothing better out there. Proven reliability, very good configurability, granularity as I call it, and they are constantly developing the kit, which is good to see. And all of those do in fact add like a USP to jobs when I'm pitching for them. Okay, so initial project was about 18 months ago. This is perhaps the first time I really started to use the kit in a production environment, medium-sized school, using Netgear kit. They're investigating alternative opportunities, but as those who tender for education jobs, there's a lot of budget pressures, especially since austerity. Some schools, colleges can't even afford Ruckus, Maru, etc. So they are looking for alternatives, and that's where MikroTik opportunity is available. Yeah, pressure from external bodies, Ofsted, etc. Do you have the latest IT kit? But we're not giving you as much money to achieve that, so more for less. So taking these pressures into account, so this school approached me, asked me what I had available. I said, yes, okay, you could use Ruckus, you could use Maru, etc., but very expensive, licensing, etc. However, I said, what about MikroTik? But they said, who? Unknown brand, so that led to a lot of uncertainty. So basically, to try and overcome this uncertainty, I gave them some kit for free, which you can do because MikroTik kit isn't expensive. So I gave them some actually it was 922s I gave them, with some R11Es and an IRB 2011. We shoved CAPsMANv on there. So we had a setup very similar to that, very straightforward. It is a large school or medium-sized school, but we just popped some wireless access points into 3 classrooms. Yeah, RRS 6.291 and management forwarding. Anyway, that was about 18 months ago. And the first day we did a test I'll never forget it was in the English block. And yeah, we got 60 students all crammed into this classroom. We got them all streaming video, all at the same time, and it didn't blip. It was absolutely fantastic. I was sweating in the corner, praying that it wasn't going to break. And yeah, thankfully it didn't. And they've been 100% satisfied with the kit. It's been brilliant. They absolutely love it. That's a bit of feedback we got from the school. Yeah, very positive. No faults have occurred. One maths teacher absolutely loves it. So very, very happy, and it was worth giving the kit for free. So 3 months ago, so 18 months ago, the initial project, 3 months ago was the project I'm going to talk about. The new tender emerged, which I got asked to tender for. Basically, let's do the entire school now. We need to get Wi-Fi. We want a BYOD. Yeah, no one's not too sure what that means. We want to have a VLAN for the domain, for the current kit. We want to be able to support 66 devices in each classroom, even though there's only about 30 students. We want to be able to integrate what they call Lightspeed, which is a captive portal that they use, and we want traffic management options. So that's quite a high-level view of what they wanted. There's quite a few other requirements as well. So quite a few questions emerged, as always. Do we need to replace the RB 2011, which is highly likely. It's a bit of a legacy kit now. What are we going to replace it with? The RB 922s work fantastic, really good. Pop them in the RF elements in spot. They look good on the ceiling, faultless. However, halfway through the process, MikroTik released a WAPAC. Again, aesthetically a lot more pleasing. Triple chain PoE, which is fantastic. The RB922 doesn't do the traditional or the industry standard PoE, and it was cheaper, amazingly cheaper. Perhaps one question that did appear through research were temperature issues. A lot of people were talking about them on the forum. So there's these questions emerging. Do we, through the process, general process of designing a system? Okay, so there's two ways in which you can narrow down uncertainties. You can go out there and research, get some secondary or second-hand information, forums, friends, that type of thing. And you can do primary research. So the first thing I did was obviously look on the forums, phone people up, and then I did some testing. So the first test was really a test that I expected to pass based on the RB922, but again, I wanted to just be on the safe side. So we did some concurrent tests, and the first test was one access point, WAPAC, ran a CAPsMANv2 on the RB 2011 because again I needed to know whether or not we needed to replace it, even though it was highly likely it would too. I managed to obtain 33 iPad Airs, which the school kindly lent. What we wanted to do was stream video. Let's really push this system as much as we can, with the resources available, of course. So that's a little picture. That's me trying to look as I'm pondering what to do. For the eagle-eyed amongst you, might see that is Donald Trump and Hillary. So I had 33 Donald Trumps and 33 Hillary Clintons all telling me how amazing they were. Whereas one's enough, to be honest. So we were streaming all this data for about half an hour. Started off with attach 5, attach 10, attach 15, attach 20. Put them on different angles. And it was fantastic. Never blipped. Never blipped at all. We used another Latvian product from Riga called Zabix. Anybody else know Zabix? Hands up if you know Zabix. Yay. They do a very good conference in Riga. A very good beer. And trips out. Highly recommended. Anyway, digressing. So I used Zabix to SNMP temperature data. So I used the, actually to be fair, I'm not too sure if it was a MikroTik MIB. But anyway, that's SNMP OIDs for the CPU load and the temperature. So you can see, again, it's a big graph and you probably may not be able to see that at the back, but the main values were that the temperature hit 78 and the CPU load was 47%. The issue for me, I really don't know whether or not, I mean, it seems quite high as that temperature, but at the end of the day, it's not had any problems with it. It's been absolutely fine. So I suppose the temperature's relative to what it's been tested, to what level it can perform at. But again, you can see those are the results. Just a bit of the, looking at the CAPsMANv, the throughput, which does seem to make sense. You've got 33 devices, HD, YouTube, probably looking at about 2 megabits per second. So you times that by 33, you're going to get 66. It's good to see I can do my maths. So we've got about 64 to 70 megabits per second receiving. CPU load on the CAPsMAN, you can see there that it is spiking. There's quite a few spikes there where it's hitting 100%. But again, we're looking at adding maybe 35 APs to the system, whereas that is with, say, 1 at full max and 2 that pretty much were idle because it was out of school time. So that pretty much kind of reinforced that we needed to replace the 2011. We also did a few speed tests. I love doing my tests. I love tweaking and playing with my MikroTik. So this is where we... Was it an RB? Yes, it was an RB2011. In the middle, the AP was a WAP-AC. So we did some tests just to see what we could get out of it. That's a picture of the setup. We've got the AP at the top. And we used a highly expensive TP-Link dual chain AC USB adapter. So you get a bit of an idea of the environment. It was my friend's shoe business office. I would like a bit of feedback here if possible, because when I did do the tests on the 20 megahertz and the 20 and then extendable up to 40 megahertz, I got some good speeds. Well, I think they were good speeds. But for some reason, when we went to the 80 megahertz, perhaps maybe it's a TP-Link, probably the case. I did this with a friend called Scott Normanton. I think he's watching live, so I'll just give him a wave. We didn't get much when on the 80 megahertz channels, so I would appreciate people's input or feedback when we're having a beer. But yeah, you get a bit of an idea of what speeds they are capable of. But I appreciate that, again, this is just us messing about. I would like to say that just because obviously we're here for MikroTik, I don't want to dish them. That is the fastest I have managed to get. But again, I appreciate it's in the lab, it's not outside, there's only one user. So it's unlikely you'll get that perhaps in the real world environment. But again, I would appreciate people's input on these tests. Yeah, that was from a SSD PC, RB922 to RB922 to an SSD PC. Anyway, so after all these tests and secondary, primary research, that was the solution we came up with. I thought we'd splash the cash and get a cloud core router 1036. I had a bit of a chat with Ron. Perhaps possibly overspec, but again, future-proof. We want to add a lot more APs in the future. 38 WAP-ACs, CAPsMANv2, manager forwarding, which had a big impact on why we picked the 1036. And we decided, as I'll tell you in a minute, 2 SSIDs on a 2.4 and 2 SSIDs on the 5. Okay, why did we do that? Well, initially we just had 1 SSID and let the clients make the decision about whether or not to roam from 2.4 to 5, band steering. Lots of debate, read up about it, make 5 gigahertz more powerful than 2.4. Lots of different techniques, but I decided the best way, came up with the term psychological band steering. I believe there are others that have done this, but I thought, why not let the client make the decision? And I did. So we created one called fast, because I didn't dare call it slow, because the client might think I'm trying to flog them something that's slow. So I created one called fast and super fast. And amazingly, everyone picked super fast. It's such a surprise. Obviously, unless you've got a very, very old phone, which some of the teachers seem to have. So yeah, and the big thing, I did expect more people to pick super fast, but it literally was an 80% swing. So we went from the client device making the decision to the user making the decision, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, fantastic. And that's great, because obviously we all know that 2.4 is highly problematic, saturated, etc. So a bit of a diagram, that's what I set up in the lab. I have my cloud core router, USB pen drive attached to that for all the logs. Zabbix was monitoring it, different VLANs. One for the domain, for the current system, which I didn't want to touch, and a separate VLAN for the new APs. Okay, now, again, I'd like people's input on this, because it's only me that works for me. Each AP obviously uses a data path, as I'll explain in a minute. So whether or not I needed to VLAN is a question I'd like to discuss with people. But I went down that route anyway, because even if there is data on that network, whether it is for the data path or not, I didn't want it to... I wanted it to be separate for performance and security reasons. And the school were initially attempting to do a /21 network, which was a bit of a shock to my system, because I think that's 2,046 hosts on one layer 2 network, so I was trying to avoid the catastrophes that can cause as well. So yeah, lovely diagram, but I'm not going to go into too much because we want to get to the raffle. Okay, so this is the next but last slide, I think. So this is a bit of a technical thing, just trying to explain how CAPsMAN stitches itself together. Okay, so you got your AP, and again, this applies to both the 2.4 and 5, but because there's so many icons, I've just kept it to the 5. So you got your BYOD, SSID section. You got your BYOD, SSID, and your domain SSID. So there's your AP, 5 gigahertz, and each SSID has its own security profile. Okay, so in CAPsMAN, you would either configure 1 or configure 2. That's up to you, but we had a BYOD profile and a domain one. Now, perhaps the big configuration files are what they call your master and your slave. Your master is the AP interface itself, radio interface, and then you can have virtual interface as the slave configurations. So that's kind of like the area that stitches or pulls it all together. So the domain SSID had the master config, the BYOD had the slave config. Okay. Now, this is perhaps the important bit. The slave config, its data path was BYOD. So the data for SSID BYOD goes via shock horror, the BYOD data path. Trying to keep things consistent here. And then the data for the SSID domain goes via the domain data path. They are then bridged. So for those of you that aren't used to CAPsMAN, but you've used Router OS, you start to see how the CAPsMAN interacts with the bridges. Again, bridge called BYOD and a bridge called domain. Nice bright green colours there. And then the BYOD bridge is attached to Ether 2, I hope. The domain bridge is attached to Ether 1, very technical. We did actually have a separate DNS and DHCP on the BYOD bridge. Again, that was given out the additional extended IP addresses that they have been provided by their ISP. So that's an attempt at visually representing how it's all stitched together. Oh, yeah, just one more thing. The channel is applied to the master configuration. But again, this is all on the wiki. And that's it. That's Italian for finished. Any questions?
You thought about using .1x with your solution? Because you're now using different SSIDs, but you might. Is there a reason why you didn't choose .1x?
You mean for authenticating the use? They use a... Yeah, they use a captive portal from their ISP. It's very heavily filtered, it's education. Initially, the head of IT didn't want to put a key on the BYOD SSID. I said just got to be careful because again, even though everybody knows the key, it's from that key that they create random keys to encrypt the data. So again, it's if something did occur, and then it's the usual news headlines, oh, you didn't encrypt this user's data. That was the reason why we decided to put a key on it. But all the authentication is done through the portal, which I think is Active Directory based. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Who's looking forward to the raffle? Only 2 hands. Okay, that's it. Excellent. So hopefully I got through that quickly. And we're moving on to, I can't read it from here, but it's something to do with MikroTik Cloud Host Router in Azure. Thank you very much.
Better? Does it work out? Okay.